Okay, we're going to move on now to Teresa. And Teresa's got a background in medical recruitment. She studied midwifery and she was a fitness instructor. I'm surrounded by fitness. It's wonderful. It might be catching. Fantastic. And she first came across the Epi-no product in 2004 at the Royal College of Midwives annual conference. And having had 3 children, an episiotomy and reconstructive surgery, she looked at the little blue balloon, which you will see in a minute, in front of her and thought, if only this had been around in 1987. So she's worked with Epi-no and is going to share something about it, quite a bit about it, I suspect. She's works within the customer services as well, coaching and advising women who are unsure about the product. And she continues to be an advocate for women's health and making women's births experiences safe and trauma-free as possible. Now, Teresa is going to be talking about this thing called Epi-no, which some of you will have heard of. You might have even used it, and some of your women might have used it. And I'm really glad. I was going to say to Teresa, can you show us this item and then explain a bit about how women can use it?
Okay, so the Epi-no product is a German invention. It was invented at the end of the 1990s by a Dr. Wilhelm Horkel in Germany, who's a gynecologist. And the product is actually designed more regarding prevention as opposed to working on trauma afterwards. So the Epi-no is designed, it's a 3-stage exercise program using the Epi-no as a tool. The first 2 stages are done antenatally, and then the 3rd stage is done after you've had the baby to help try and regenerate the pelvic floor muscles. But the crucial part of it is really to work on the perineum, to stretch the perineum. So initially what you do is the product's designed to be used during pregnancy, so it can be used at any point. But in the UK, we suggest that women wait until they're around about 32 weeks pregnant, their pregnancy is going perfectly normally, and then it would be suitable for them to start using this. And we like them to start using it as a pelvic floor exerciser, not to actually build strength and tone in the muscles, because obviously at that point in the pregnancy, that's not going to happen. It's actually to teach women how to raise their pelvic floors and then actually relax the pelvic floor muscles. So they will insert the balloon into the vagina. And as they have it in the vagina and they squeeze against, I'm not sure if you can see that very well. Can you see the dial?
Can see the dial.
So as they squeeze the pelvic floors, the arrow will move up.
Okay.
But what we're really looking at here is them to relax their pelvic floor muscles. A lot of women have quite tight pelvic floor muscles, actually. And so teaching a woman to down train or relax her pelvic floor muscles towards the end of the pregnancy can be really beneficial when they actually go into labor, because relaxation of the pelvic floors, if a baby meets tight muscle, it's more difficult to get through. So relaxing the pelvic floor muscles at will is really helpful. So they will practice squeezing and then relaxing. So come the day, they will have learned how to actually proactively relax their pelvic floor muscles, which will be really helpful. So then once they get to 37 weeks pregnant, they can start using this as a tool to prepare their perineum. Now, I know in the midwifery profession, they discuss perineal massage, and a lot of midwives think it's very beneficial, but it's actually quite difficult to do manual perineal massage, particularly, you know, you're 36, 37 weeks pregnant, you have a bump, you've got to try and reach, you've actually got to exert pressure and at the same time try and relax. So this is a tool that actually helps you to do that with yourself being able to relax at the same time. So The balloon, as you can see, it's the shape of a figure of 8. So you insert the balloon halfway. So if you can see that, it's half in and half out. So this part will be in the vagina and this part will be outside. Now, gradually, as you put air into the balloon, it will gradually stretch your perineum. Okay, so what we're looking for women to do is to gradually, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So over the period of 3 weeks, so from 37 weeks onwards, use it every day and just take it up a little bit more. And then at the end of the 20-minute session, obviously there's more details on the website in terms of how to specifically use it. But at the end of the 20 minutes, they will then relax. They will do that relaxation exercise that they did with the up-down training, and then they can relax the balloon out. Now, the technology in this balloon is, if you noticed at the beginning, it was in the shape of a figure of 8. So the narrowest part sits on the perineum. As you inflate the balloon, the narrowest part becomes the widest part. So that is the part that is stretching the most, and that is sitting on the perineum. So we're not looking to stretch the vagina, we're literally looking to stretch the perineum. And then obviously at the end of each session, you will relax the balloon and then you can measure it. So there's a little measuring guide. I'm not sure.
Oh my word. Okay.
So each day you can see how your progress is doing. Now, the magic number is 10 centimeters because obviously that's the magic number that you can start to push when the cervix is dilated. But actually most women will probably get this up to maybe 7.5, 8, 8.5 centimeters. What we're actually looking for them to do is to gradually stretch. So every day you're gradually stretching the perineum, so you're making it more elastic, and it's that elasticity that helps prevent the tearing. So at the end of each session, obviously you measure the balloon, and when you've had the baby and you've done your 6 weeks check, you can then use this as a tool to work your pelvic floor muscles. Now, again, this isn't a magic bullet. Going to somebody like Abby, going to a specialist pelvic health physiotherapist is the best route, obviously. But this is a tool that can assist you to regenerate, start getting your pelvic floor muscles working after you've had the baby. So the crucial part for Epi-no really is looking at prevention. So we're looking at preventing women from having trauma and injury. So actually they don't go on to develop problems later on with incontinence, with problems with their pelvic floors. And interestingly, Abby mentioned France in her talk. So in France, the French insurance companies pay for women's Epi-nos.
Oh,
because
okay.
actually, from a financial perspective, it will save them a lot of money because the tool has been shown that it actually does work. I mean, there have been various studies done across the world that show the reduction in tearing, particularly third and fourth, but also first and second degree tears, which is why obviously the French insurance companies feel it's a brilliant tool for them to use because, you know, at the end of the day, they are there to provide a service, but they're also there to make money. So,
or save money.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the Epi-no. I've been selling. I brought the Epi-no to the UK. I started selling it in 2005 after I found it. I'm extremely passionate about it. I know it works. Obviously, anything to do with birth is unpredictable, and you know, one woman can use it 3 times and have 3 different experiences with it. We know this, and that's why it's been very difficult to try and provide, you know, a randomized controlled study. I know that the midwifery profession would love that in order to be able to recommend it or talk about it, but it's almost an impossibility. We have had 2 or 3 hospitals that have wanted to run a study, but it would require them basically managing every single woman within the group who's using Epi-no to make sure they're using it in exactly the same way, which has been quite difficult. And also in Australia, they tried to run a randomized controlled study, but the control group who didn't get the Epi-nos then went and bought an Epi-no in their local camp. So, and you may see that study is floating around all over the place, but unfortunately, that's what happened with that study. So we've almost got to the point in the UK, we've carried out our own customer survey. It's not a study, it is a customer questionnaire.
Is that this one?
So, yeah. So the statistics, they're not going to stand up in a journal because it is a customer survey. I mean, I would love it if a midwife would get involved with me to maybe maybe Abby would be interested to try and customize the way we ask the questions to actually get more out of the women. We have over 1,000 women who have responded to our survey now, which is a huge cohort of women. And, obviously they were proactively using the Epi-no. So obviously it's not a study, but nevertheless, it shows a 42% risk reduction in tearing of these women. So it's my love, it's my passion. I know it makes a difference, and I'm just grateful that you've asked me on here today to talk about it. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just someone who's passionate about trying to help women. Similarly to Abby, it's not acceptable that Tanner Lady sells pads and normalizes incontinence. Not acceptable.
I have to say, other pads are available.
I'm
of
sure.
course. Because I think that's a good point, actually, Teresa, because and Abby, because it's quite a big market, and I'm always, and when you're showing the statistics that Abby showed and we're talking about, you realise what a good market it is, and it becomes quite sales led in that way. I mean, I think if I can say to the audience, if you're interested in the Epi-no, have a look at the website. That's on the resources sheet, and there is a whole lot of information from women who've tried out the Epi-no, and some of whom loved it. A couple said it was really difficult because you got a bump to get round, and I suppose one of the things you were talking about, it, getting used to using the pelvic floor, and I was thinking one of the things, it's like massaging perineums. It gets someone used to being quite open about trying these things and getting to know their body better and what works. So all of these things will help.
Not everybody will want to do perineal massage. Not everybody will want to use an Epi. Some women don't even, they don't want to prepare in that way. And that's absolutely fine. But for the women who decide, actually, I'd like to try and do something to prevent tearing. I don't want to tear when I give birth. It is there and it is available. And, if there are midwives out there watching who would be interested in me coming, I mean, that was part of my job before COVID hit. I used to go to hospitals and give training sessions on the product and more information. So, I'm available anytime, any hospital, anywhere.
Fabulous. That's all on the resources sheet as well. And that's really helpful, Teresa. I mean, I think I found looking through the webpage very interesting because I'd heard about this some time ago, actually, from someone who's looking at it with a research head. And it's quite true that I think midwives are in a bit of a conflict, because I think we like RCTs, randomized controlled trials, because they're quite clear generally that it either proves or doesn't prove. But on the other hand, we like qualitative stuff that tells us what works for women and what women like and what midwives can work with. So we're a bit conflicted about that. But thank you so much to Teresa and to Abby for getting us on this little route.
Thanks for watching this video from the Maternity and Midwifery Forum. For more expert opinion and analysis, hit the button below to subscribe.